Hey y'all, so I figured I would make this really nice video. I have a little bit of a pocket of time, and anyone who is either a cosmetology student, whether you're current, past, whether you're currently in the beauty field and want a little refresher, or if maybe any of y'all are just curious about cosmetology, ask me the questions. I'll be more than happy to answer. I have a few of the books. I do not have my My Lady book with me right now, but I have Pivot Point, which is a little bit different, but a lot of the concepts are the same. So if there's any areas that any of y'all want to cover or go over, please just ask now. We'll probably be on for like an hour or so just to be out there and see who's out there. I truly, genuinely appreciate all the support that y'all have been giving me with the summarization of the book as well as the technique. I am going to try to have the rest of My Lady done soon. It's just been absolute a mess because our house was hit pretty bad by the one hurricane. So between recovering from that and just life in general, it's been a little challenging, but challenges make us stronger. That being said, any questions, just comment down below. Let's get chatting about something. I know the recent videos I've been putting on, a lot of y'all want to see more of the perm videos, more of the hair texture videos. Skincare has been another big area, and I'm going to try to keep those coming and make that happen. I do want to save up some money and purchase the Pivot Point skincare books and the skincare manual to kind of go over that, because that is a whole wonderful area. Me personally, I tend to prefer My Lady, but when it comes to technique, I think that Pivot Point does a much better job with skincare, with covering everything from the advanced techniques and onward. My Lady does have the Advanced Aesthetics book, which is another great area to summarize, but it's just so science heavy. It's incredible. Also have coffee. I'm going to be on a bit of a business trip next week, so I won't be live too much, but it would be really interesting and cool just to kind of see when would be an ideal time to do like these, either weekly or twice a month, maybe once a month, kind of get a feel for what's going on out there. I know that a lot of the exams in cosmetology, they tend, at the very least, tend to be May, November, around that time. It's kind of like weird. Not a lot of them are held like, in the other months. And I know like a lot of cosmetology students, they tend to want, they tend to cram, which I totally understand because it's difficult while you're taking clients and you're doing all these things. I know in our case, we were given, I think it was like a full week and a half to 2 weeks to like fully study and fully prep the exam. It was like drill sergeant style. It was crazy. I don't think this even gives me the ability to screen share, because that would be really cool to go over like a PowerPoint or something cool like that. But my one video, and I just wanted to explain some things. I'm going to be posting the photos. It'll be in, I think, a YouTube post. I'm going to try to put them in the video. But the oval perm, I know that was a bit of a fail, and that was like totally my mistake because I've been kind of belt tightened for some of the resources. The mannequin was pre-lightened on the ends, which is usually a no-no, especially for an acid perm. But just like I said in that one video, I think it's a really good concept because you see that up top where the hair was less processed, it tended to give more of a wave, but then everything else in the ends was kind of fried. So the part 2 is going to be a lot better because I was able to secure a cheaper mannequin, but with still 100% human hair. I took precautions. I did the oval perm. I did an acid wave on it, and I did the perm picks. So again, it prevented it from being, messed up, and it actually came out very nice. It looks like finger waves. So it definitely comes out like a really nice perm. It's great, ideally, for someone that does not have processed hair, someone that doesn't have like a lot of work done. That's another issue that I find a lot of people don't always take into consideration. I will say, for the most part, for men's haircuts and men's styling, because typically men, are not doing harsh chemicals, or their hair is a short enough length to where they are able to um, maintain like a healthier style, versus ladies, they tend to have longer hair and they might have more of a hair history. So that all you have to take into account when choosing a solution. There was a very nice lady that she did a great video with the type of perm solution. But my one critique of that is that the one solution she chose was so ultra firm. And I find that a lot of today's fashions and a lot of today's looks are more about natural, ready to wear looks. And if you're using a cold wave, or you're using a exothermic perm, regular ATG, ammonium thioglycolate, it tends to come out a little too tight and a little too dated, versus using an acid wave or using a thio-free perm, which produces more of a medium curl, more of a wave, and you're able to become a little bit more versatile like that. So it's really all about what you're doing. Now, if you have an older client, typically, if they have she has very fine hair and she wants like more body, you can beat the hair up a little bit more. And a thio-free perm might not be ideal if she's just all natural hair and she's not using any hair color, because what's going to happen is going to be your client will end up having hair that is a little too limp because you haven't beat up that cuticle enough, if that makes sense. And that's kind of like going back to cosmetology theory. Are these products damaging? Like, the perms, of course, but it's controlled damage. It's actually damage you kind of want. You got to remember that with your client, if your client has fine hair, there's a lot more cuticle layer you got to beat up and go through. So maybe if you have a client that, comes into either the student salon or comes in your salon and, they're not coloring their hair, you're probably going to want to choose a stronger perm solution than if, the client had hair color in 20 volume, for example. Most common example. If your client has a mixture of foils and you're using bleach and maybe you're using hair color 30, 40 volume, then that's where you start running into trouble, because you got to remember that you then have the regrowth, which is going to take longer to process. You then have all this hair history that hasn't processed yet. And then you might end up with a very, very hot mess. So all these things you got to take into consideration when consulting with a client and all that. In the field of cosmetology, it's a really big thing. And I find that a lot of students don't always get the proper training in that, so to speak. You'll have a lot of these big cosmetology schools that will they're by a brand, or Pulp Riot, Redken, all that. And I'm not knocking on the brand. I'm just saying that a lot of those times, those brands don't always provide the basic sciences and the basics of a consultation, which you can use with any brand to make it successful. So I think that as an educator myself, we need to start getting away from the whole branded education in that regard when they're so young and learning. Because when I was in cosmetology school, I think in my early 20s, and I did it in high school, and then I did it again as an adult to finish. And it was difficult because I was only trained with the brand. I would just kind of think, oh, if I don't use this product, I can't get a good result. Or, what about this? I was given false information. Someone falsely told me when I was in cosmetology school that if you used high-lift hair color, for example, which does lift 4 to 5 levels, depends on your, what your client wants. And some of my viewers that are here, just, comment and say hi. If you have any questions, whether it's hair, skin, nails, just comment and I'll see if I can answer it. Just kind of a very open, nice Q&A tonight. Check out my other videos. Please subscribe. This is all things cosmetology, just basics, true beauty science. It's been neglected for so long. And if there's anything in particular, if anyone's a cosmetology student and wants clarification on a certain chapter or something like that, I can go and get my textbooks and I'll find something, because my previous school that I was teaching at was Pivot Point, not My Lady, so I had to get the Pivot Point. Me personally, I do like Pivot Point for the technique, but in terms of state board and actually passing your exam, I don't feel like Pivot Point goes that far to be that successful. I myself am more biased towards My Lady because I find that My Lady is a near perfect 100% match for your written state board and your procedure for state board within reason, because sometimes you'll have a state that has like a crazy state law on state board. Kentucky, for example, this was a shocker to me. They make you do an entire razor haircut, an entire haircut, versus our state, which is very basic. You're given a mannequin and you just do show me how you use a shear. Okay, cut one piece of hair. Okay, show me how you use a thinning shear diagonally. Show me how you use a razor for hair, 45-degree angle. We do like a piece and that's it on the mannequin, and that's it completely for the whole thing. The rest of it is just basic stuff that you will never, ever do again, which is why I myself am trying to reform state board. I either want state board just to become abolished so you don't do the state board examination, and you do more of like, hands-on stuff, you do more activities, because that's really what it's about. It's what makes this industry so nice, is you have the ability to, to do all that. And I think I'm on live chat so I can see everything. And I'm sorry about that. The printers went on by itself. Do we have any questions? Say hello, say where you're from. I know I get viewers from all over. I have viewers all the way from Canada, which is really cool because I myself had no idea how Canada does their cosmetology thing. My assumption, which I think is true, is that they use My Lady, but I didn't know if they had like a test or how their exam works. Hair is pretty much hair. It doesn't matter if you're here, Canada, around the world. The most part you're using My Lady, which is also why I prefer My Lady. It's more versatile across different countries versus Pivot Point, which is tended to be more exclusive to the USA. And the technique, though, I will say the technique in Pivot Point is good for continuing education. So, for example, actually, I'll get a Pivot Point book. You know what I'll get the perm book because that seems to be a popular one. So here's another thing. This is Pivot Point. This is Pivot Point here. And with Pivot Point, it's interesting because if you look at it like this, right, it gives you all these examples. It covers the pages like this. It doesn't go into enough detail that it should, like My Lady does. My Lady is paragraph after paragraph, and you can highlight, but it also includes at the end of the chapter your technique, which is important. This kind of lumps it in all together, and the type of the print is a little too small, and then you have to figure out like what's important, what's not. So it's all interesting. The one thing I will say too, and this is what people forget, is that when you are doing a permanent wave service, because I'm also really bad with names and I forgot her name, but she's like one of my regular followers. I really appreciate her, comments and her constructive criticism. She wanted to know more case scenarios. And basically when you're doing a case scenario for a perm, you have to remember that with a perm, you are using a very strong chemical depending on what you're doing. So for example, one of the things is you have to take into account, number one, what you're using. And I'm going to do another whole video on this because I believe in repetition. There are 4 steps in perming, right? Step 1, where are you? Okay, do you have color treated hair? Do you have bleached hair? Is your hair virgin? Is your hair resistant? You're going to have to do a whole hair and scalp analysis. Many people fail at this step right here because they don't take into account what's wrong. Step 2, where do you want to go? What is a client looking for? Is she looking for a body? Is she looking for curl? Does she want really tight curls like the 80s? Does she want like a specialty perm? Is she showing you something on, Instagram or something like that? So those things you all have to take into account. Now, I will say this. A lot of the times clients have unrealistic expectations. I've had clients that will come in there and they'll try to like tell you how to do your job. And they'll say, I want exactly, this many rollers and this many rods. And I know sometimes as hairdressers, you tend to want to be a little too blunt, but don't do that because that's not good customer service. If you have to go outside, take a quick breather, come back in. I get that clients can be very cantankerous, for lack of a better word. So one of the things that I have noticed is I had a client and she took much better notes than my students. This client would bring in note cards, and her note cards, she would come in there and she would say, it would dialogue everything she had done with that service. If she had 50 rods in her, or 51 rods in her hair, she would have 51 rods in her hair, right? So she would come in there and she would say, it feels like there's not this many rods. And she would then count. So you then would have to go in there and readjust. And this was a client for students. And I used to at one point tell my students, I will never embarrass you in front of a client. If a client's overwhelming, let me know. I'll come over and I'll see what I can do. This was a time where I would let the student do a majority of the service. but also try to support the student, because a lot of the times this client would overwhelm them when she would count the rods. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I really wish that more instructors would be like this and be more attentive. Hey there, Alana, how are you? And another thing the client would do, she would know the brand of the perm. She would know exactly the time of the perm. She then would count how many rollers you'd use, because she'd get like a roller set after. And it's just an interesting situation, because you will tie this chapter back to like personality. Your clients have personality, and that's what people forget, is that it doesn't make them a good client, a bad client. It just makes your job a little bit different, because as a hairdresser, if you're a skin therapist, if you're a makeup artist, we fix hair. We make people feel better about themselves, which is pretty darn awesome. And I will say this is where it gets really challenging. You have to learn how to work with a whole bunch of different personalities in the field, and that's where it gets challenging. And you will find that typically if you get that like that 10%, because I think it's like 10% or 1%, I think like the 1% or something, 10% I think it is, of clients just will never be happy with anything. And those are clients you don't want long term. Most of the time, they're not going to be long term. I'm ready to unplug this printer, just so y'all know. I apologize. How are you, Alana? Anything, or is it, did I say your name right? Ilana? If any of y'all have any questions, oh, Alana brings up a great point. Says, very thankful to have worked in retail for so long. I navigate well with tricky clients. That's a really good point. Retail, bartending, restaurant work is another big one. I was a bar and restaurant manager for 3.5 years, and I did it with active Lyme disease, which I wanted to just like fall. I did it on the Lord's will is what I said, because it was just so like draining. It's a technique, and it's even trickier with hair, because like with retail, for the most part, I worked at Home Goods, TJ Maxx. You would go to the retail, right? And then TJ Maxx, they had a rule that you could not say no to a client ever, period. You had to get creative with how you would say no. So you couldn't use the word no, which I thought was so ridiculous, because sometimes you have to hear no. So you would try to find a way to kind of either get a manager or like work around it. And I had a client, I think it was the one time, we used to do layaway in the store. And for those that don't know, layaway is kind of like pawn shop like stuff. We don't do it anymore because it really was tumultuous. It was very difficult. And we had, I think it was a married couple or something. They bought a whole bunch of furniture and they had it in layaway. And the guy, she got it on her credit card or something, but the guy was able to do a little scam where they didn't get married. The marriage kind of fell through, and he basically sold all the stuff in layaway. And what happened was, she came in there. I don't blame her. She came in there hollering and yelling and very angry. And I was trying to explain to her, like, ma'am, I'm very sorry this happened. However, I can only do so much because I don't know much of the situation. And the rule was you needed proof of the receipt or you needed a police report. And she thought that me as a retail worker could write a police report. I can't do that. I'm not the police. And when I told her I'm not the police, she like flips on me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, ma'am. There's not much that I can do. I can get my manager. That's where it got really crazy. Usually in hair, you're able to tell them no, which is what I like about this, because sometimes, right, I tell people, when you have the 4 steps of perming, where are you? Where do you want to go? If the where do you want to go is not possible. So for example, think of it like a GPS. If you want to walk to from New York to California in one day, that ain't going to happen. You're going to have to be like the Roadrunner or something. So you have to kind of lower expectations, but do it in a nice way. Suggest other alternatives. Never overpromise what you can give the client. It's always better to, kind of underpromise, overdeliver. So it seems like, you really know your stuff, which I know a lot of you do know your stuff. Alana says, I'm good, just getting back from my night classes. Oh, very cool. Night classes in cosmetology or like college? I've had students do both, which I think is really impressive. That's been another thing too, is like I've noticed that there's certain, depending on the state, there are some cosmetology programs. Oh, yay. Yes, in Cosmo. Oh, very nice. How far along are you? Are you like does your school do like a tier system? Because I know like our school, we were a L'Oreal school. We would do like 3 tiers. You were intro. It was like intro or cos 1, cos 2, and then cos 3, which is like your finisher. They did it in a nice way. So you kind of got like that satisfaction, like, hey, I completed X amount of hours. Now I get to like, you would go from like, I don't know, like white scrubs to like maroon or there'd be different colors. So, kind of being more symbolic. Oh, 6 to 10 p.m. So that was a after partial program, I believe, right? 6. Yeah, partial. And that's another thing, right? Sometimes the hours, they can be it could be tricky with the hours in Cosmo because it depends on a lot of things. I've seen programs that were like running from 2 o'clock to like 8 at night or 9 at night, which is so difficult, especially if you're like a parent or a single parent, even. It's not easy. Cosmetology school, as someone who has been through cosmetology school myself, as someone who is also working on his PhD now, I would say that hands down, Cosmo School is way harder than doing a PhD program, hands down, because you are not only doing book work, you're learning about so many different subjects at once. Cosmetology is not easy like people think it is. It's ingredients, it's basic science, it's basic biology, it's basic anatomy, it's projects. You got to go over, school events. You have school rules that are stressful, so you have to be there by a certain time, and then all those things. Plus trying to do living clients, which taking that very first client is so terrifying. And there are days where you just want to say, you know what, F it. I want to throw in the towel. I just want to go back to ringing at TJ Maxx. That's how I felt, honestly, some days. And I'm glad I stuck it out because it really is not easy, but it's worth it. Alana says it is 3 months book work and the rest of the time is on the clinic floor with live clients. That's actually really cool that you guys do that because I know that's really nice. I know the one program that I would do teaching was when I taught, you would have like one group and then you would do book work and then the other group would do book work. And it wasn't until they got to that level 3 level that they were working on actual clients. And then they would try to do stuff like, every Friday was like a state board day, or you would do something like that. So it was definitely really interesting. Now, does your program use My Lady or Pivot Point? I only have Pivot Point books. And if there's anything that you personally would request that like you want to either clarify or you just want to, go over, I'd be more than happy to do that now because, all of y'all students are the future in our industry. And it's always great to, see the, the youth kind of take over and, be the change in the industry that we couldn't do. Turkina says, thank you for all the work you have done for us. It has been great to find your videos. I currently a student. I have about 520 plus hours so far. Turkina, you go. Congratulations. Congratulations. You're about like halfway there. Every state is different. Our state is like 1,200 hours. It's ridiculous. And it's like, I know some states want to add more hours on there. And I'm like, listen, I said, you can only add so much on there because for the most part, across the board, it's the same program. You're kind of doing the very general on everything. And the hardest part with a lot of people don't understand, what you learn after school is where your career really starts. I had a mentor who the mentor was really, really good. And he did not say this to be condescending at all. He said this in a very nice way because it really kind of woke me up. And he would explain it how, oh, you just graduated cosmetology school. Well, congratulations. You've just graduated, kindergarten. I'm looking, I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm like, well, he's got a point because a lot of the stuff that we're taught by the book or by state board, it's ridiculous. How many people are going to come into your salon and say, the state board method? You wouldn't do the state board method with the shave, right? The 1 and the 2 and no barber I know shaves like that. It is beyond irritating to train yourself to learn that incorrect information. Not to mention some of the stuff that's in the book, both My Lady and Pivot Point, is not always up to date. So, for example, I myself tend to like visual examples, and what I'll do for like a little extra credit or extra hours is I have students go out there and I make them either go to like an Ulta Beauty or I make them go to like a CVS, and they have to find something on the shelf that is like, the perms or the relaxers. Like the one relaxer they mentioned, like, contains bisulfates. I have not seen a relaxer like that. There was one they had on the market and it was a good one because you could use it for bleached hair. You can use it for like damaged hair. And they don't make it anymore. And then you'll have bad marketing where like, people will bring stuff into the salon and say, oh, but I use like this one product and it's got like, it's powered by like eggs and this and that. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's powered by chemicals. Turkina says, thanks. I am here in Utah and we are required to have, 1,600 hours. Oh, that's a nightmare. That's like a year and a half about. Ours is about a year. And either Alana or Turkina, if you have any requests that you want me to, cover in in detail or just kind of clarify or any specific questions that are causing confusion now, just ask. I'll see if I have the pivot point equivalent of the book and just kind of break it down, because I know it's just way too much to do for 1 year. When I was in cosmetology school, I wish we had good resources. A lot of the times when I was there, it was like the My Lady had like an online program, and it really wasn't that good. What they do have, and I do like, is they have it's free on YouTube. It's called Studio Luma. They have all of them uploaded, and it's just great information because they do a good job at kind of summarizing the basic concepts in the book, but they give like real life examples of like how to do things. And that's what I really like about it, because it's important. It kind of shows you how you would deal with those clients. Turkina, does your school use My Lady or Pivot Point? I know My Lady seems to be the more popular one, and for good reason, because I know, like, and this is where it gets confusing. You would think that across the board, having one book and putting all that energy into making that book as good as it can be would be the better option. I know back in like the, you know, what is it, 1990s even, there was like 3 or 4 different cosmetology books. Some of them were good, don't get me wrong, because like, look, the 1990s, that was when you kind of would have like a shift. We were getting away from using more caustic chemicals of the 80s. We were getting more into, understanding sciences more, making products a lot better. It wasn't as difficult. But here's the double-edged sword, right? You had, back in the 1990s and 80s, cosmetology school was about $500. $500. And back then that was actually considered cheap, believe it or not. So you had that. Unlike when I was in school, we paid like $7,000. And then you have some of these bigger schools that they rake you for your money. It's like 2,500, not 2,000, 25 grand. I've seen one school that was like a little almost 30 grand for cosmetology. And I'm like, wow, that's disgusting. And then with some of the products they would use, like charging that much, I'm like, that wasn't even worth it. I am actively looking into like what it's like to open your own school, because I would really like that, to kind of take the YouTube passion and then kind of do the school, because they know in my classroom, like any one of my graduates will tell you like what Mr. Vinny was like. I tended to be understanding but firm. I would give a 2-week grace period. So basically, I understand that, starting this new field is overwhelming. It's anxiety provoking. A lot of cosmetology students, including myself, we have adjustment disorder. It's a change. You might have, be anxious. It might be stressful. Something bad will happen, and it's like a crisis. And that's all part of the human experience in this field, right? So what I would do is that you have a 2-week grace period just to kind of start getting the hang of coming on time. And if you were late, I wouldn't make a big deal about it. Okay, put it in the book. Fine, mistakes happen. What I did notice is that through, and I don't know if I can say the name of the illness that was going around without being censored. So basically what was happening the last, few years, and, that causing school closures, students that we had that would go through that area, some of them, they didn't even have hands-on clients. They did their entire program virtual. We had a ton of esthetician students. They never even worked on a client, and they were going right in the field, working with wax, working with like hardcore chemicals. And that's pretty dangerous. Same in the salon. They'd go in the salon and not have an understanding of what basic shampoo is like, or how to properly rinse out a color. There was an incident that my friend had. She was talking to me about a student who did the entire cosmetology program at just the worst amount of time. They were halfway through, and then disease happened, and their school had to shut down, and they were basically forced to do the rest of their hours on Zoom, which is not nearly enough or appropriate. And what ended up happening was they would graduate, didn't have to take their state board, didn't have to do none of that. They were working with perms, relaxers, the pressing comb. There was someone, they forgot to rinse out all of the relaxer, and they sent the client home with like about a quarter-sized amount of product, and it started to eat away at the skin. The client actually had a very bad chemical burn. Another situation, they forgot to rinse out the bleach, and it was like the foils. So they didn't shampoo the hair properly. They didn't go over like, how you fully remove bleach. And what ended up happening was, if you can imagine, all back here, the hair was just broken. It was like gummy. It was brittle. So that's what we're dealing with here, at least in our state. I know other states handled it differently, but those like ours that remained shut down for a crazy amount of time, we had some pretty bad backlash. Tarkina says, we use My Lady. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Alana says 14 grand. Oh, ouch. Yeah, it's typically in that range, anywhere from, and in my state, which I was pretty shocked because we have like outrageous pricing on everything. There were cosmetology programs that were as low as 5 grand. And I'm like, okay, like I wish I would have known about that program. Granted, if you drive far away, you're gonna be paying for it in gas, so it kind of like evens out, but they're somewhere in that range. Alana, I'm from New Jersey. It's a really weird state because depending where you go, it can either feel like you're in like Maryland, and then if you go like up north, you feel like you're in New York. Um, and I've gotten a chance to work both in South Jersey and North Jersey, so it was really kind of cool to experience both cultures. It's definitely a really neat state. Alana says, "Oh yay, hi neighbor. Oh, you're from New York. Awesome. New York City or New York State?" And I know there's a difference. I love New York State. It's just so serene, so beautiful. You can like breathe and like see the waterfalls. New York City, I like it, but it's a little overwhelming. It's too fast paced. I don't trust myself to drive in the city because like the drivers there are very bad. No offense. Um, Taxi in if you go to New York City. Yeah, we're neighbors. And then there's also like Staten Island and then Long Island. Oh, Long Island. I love Long Island. Long Island, I really like, and it's really cool because I've noticed in Long Island, depending on where you go, some of the people sound like they're British. There was like one area we visited. It was like doing an American Revolution tour because I'm really into history. So we went there to like learn about the American Revolution and all that stuff, and it was neat. And the one lady, I thought she was like right off the boat from England. I'm like, wow, like you have a really cool accent. And she goes, oh, I get that a lot. And it's just that one little village in Long Island. They sound very British, which is so interesting because a New Jersey accent either sounds like you're from New York. I've had some people in New Jersey, they sound like they're from South Carolina. I had someone in New Jersey, born and raised in South Jersey her entire life. And we couldn't, the accent was really nice. It was really cool. And we couldn't pinpoint it. We're like, Bulgaria, Europe. And she was like, no, South Jersey. And she goes, I get that a lot. Since I know you're in Utah, Tarkina, you'd appreciate this. I was talking to someone and they didn't believe that I was from New Jersey. I was traveling and um, they go, are you from Utah? And I go, no, why? They're like, you sound like you're from Utah. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know if that was an accent. Or I get California, which I have a client who's like right off the boat from California, and she has a really neat accent. And like their dialect and their slang is a little bit different in California. And if you all want to talk about a nightmare of a state board, California is absolutely crazy. Actually, let me look. I'm going to look this up right now. California State Board Cosmetology hours. I believe, oh, they might have changed it. I think, oh, they changed it in California. It used to be a lot different. California is, believe it or not, ready for this. It's a lot less than New Jersey, a lot less than Utah, and a lot less than New York. Anyone want to take a guess at how many hours California is without cheating? This is actually shocking to me. Because I remember I had a good friend from California. We'd like compare notes and everything. There used to be, and the key word was used to be, it's a shame it's no longer. There was a fantastic course, event. And it was every year in California, Los Angeles. You would just pay your flight, which, you know, if you're flying from New York or nailed it, Turkina, 1,000 hours, 1,000 hours, which is crazy. Hey there, Veronica. Veronica asks, hi, is it better to be in cosmetology or do nail tech? Veronica, that's a really great question. And this is another issue where it comes down to, what you want to do personally. So for example, if you tend to have more of a passion for nails and doing nails and you want to get out there as quick as possible, a nail tech might be good for you. However, if you want to do a little bit of everything, my own personal opinion, I think that cosmetology in the long run is a better license because it's a license that kind of like covers everything and it's the highest license. So for example, let's say that you like nails now, but you might want to kind of venture into skincare. Do the cosmetology, because with cosmetology, let's say years down the road, right? Because in this field, we tend to burn out quickly. let's say that you're doing nails for 30 years and you say, I'm kind of getting tired. I still want to work a little bit, but not anywhere as crazy. And I want to have a job like as an educator. It's easier for you having a cosmetology license to go to your state and then go to your educator program. Educator program is just a few hours. The hours are very easy, because they kind of trust, especially if you've been doing it for a while, that you know what you're doing. And then after that, you'll get in the field of educating. Let's say that, nails just aren't your thing. And then over time, you want to go to more like skincare. With a cosmetology license in most states, you can do that. So it's a great question. It really depends on a lot of what you would like to do. And I tell students all the time, no pressure to do a certain program. I've had students that were torn between cosmetology and skincare, and they did skincare, and they absolutely loved it. Alana asks at 2K. Oh, I think Alana, California used to be like, it used to be 2,000 hours. It was up there. And the exam in California was like no joke. They would make you like get mock perm solution. You have to like use like water. They would make you do like a whole haircut. They would make you do like a whole bunch of different things for their exam. They reformed a lot of that, which is, I myself see that as a step in the right direction. And I know that shocks a lot of people when I say that, because like, look at Pennsylvania, which is another one of our neighboring states. They do things a lot differently. Pennsylvania is focused on hours, experience, and the theory, which is more important in my book, because the experience, having a client, doing that is what's going to get you farther versus training for a state board. Our state board, for the example, ready? We have to do this. When you blow dry hair, typically, you have to blow dry hair like this, right? They want you to blow dry hair for state board, holding your arms up like this and going like this. There is not a sane person on earth who has joints still that blow dries hair like that, because you're going to wear down your joints. That's they have you train for state board. And I tell my students, you're only going to have to do this once in your life. I'm really sorry. It's just the way it is. And some of the rules, like, I don't understand the whole rule of like forcing students to wear makeup for their exam, which I think is so intrusive. As an examiner, I would not mark anyone off, because I think that's just ridiculous. It's like an old rule that's got to change. And the whole like dress code thing with like, the ladies have to wear, have to wear like skirts or something. And it's like this really specific type of jacket. State board pretty much exists to make your life a living nightmare, in my own opinion. I can't say that in school, but now that I'm on here, views and opinions are my own and just my own. So take that for what it is. Alana says, yeah, I'm 1,000 hours. It feels endless. It does. It really does. If you think about breaking it down, you also have to take into account, right, that New York, especially like when you live up north, you have snow. That snow is going to, you're going to have snow days. You might lose out on hours. And then you have to basically go back and then say, I don't know, what is it? You have to go back and then say, oh, you didn't get, or this is another issue. I fought and I've actually won for students, because I do believe in advocating, another area that educators don't always do correctly. When you have a snow day, I tell people, do some My Lady, just log on, do a little bit of the quizzes so I can justify giving you hours, because by law, for the most part, every state is different in this. They have minimal hours that you can complete online. For New Jersey, it's 200 hours. So I've had students that were worried about not being able to pass, missing class. And I said, well, you know what? Okay, well, did you do your My Lady? Just say yes. Yes, I did. I said, okay, go on there, do some exams. They would do that. They would document the hours of My Lady that would total up to 200. I would print that out. I'd put that in the thing and said, this is why I'm justifying the hours. And I would print out the state law, and I would argue on that by state law, you have to accept this. Plain and simple. Turkina says, about 15 years ago, Utah was 2,000 cosmetology hours. Ooh. Turkina says, great question, Veronica. Veronica says, thanks. I do love a bit of everything. I am hoping to do microblading in the future, but cosmetology is expensive compared to nail tech. Veronica, you are completely correct on that. I'm not judging, because these programs are expensive. It might be easier to do the nail tech, and you can get out in the field, do a few hours, or save up. That's always an option too. I know some schools have scholarships. I wish they would have more scholarships for cosmetology, and truly, 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 truly start treating this field like it should be treated, as an academic profession. Because I myself, as a PhD student myself, I view cosmetology as way harder than a PhD. I view cosmetology as equal to that of like, another program. They do in Europe. You're learning. You have, it's even more crazy because in cosmetology, you're doing what we do as a clinical psychologist in under 5 years, which is impressive. Clinical psychology, you spend about 2 or 3 years just theory, writing. You'll spend like 1 year in your residencies working with clients, and the rest of your program is just like writing your fancy paper. Cosmetology is like more in depth. Alana says, not to mention the end results, the blow drying technique. Yeah, could you imagine that? Like going like this? You're pulling hair, you're going like this, you're going to get like frizz to all, high heavens, and just it won't look nice, and you're going to feel it. Turkina says, what the heck? It's kind of like the 50s with the New Jersey State Board rules. Yeah, Turkina, it is. And I don't agree with the rules. And I've been fighting it. But, State Board, here's the issue. And here's why. We're going to start seeing a lot of state boards either go defunct or kind of, end up getting deregulated because State Board kind of shot themselves in their foot. State Board does not like to change. And that's been part of the issue. Their exam is like 50 years outdated. I love doing volunteer work. So I'll go to like, different churches, synagogues, and I'll like, have like the ladies group and I'll cover like basic skincare and just answer a few questions because that's how you learn, have a nice little time. And, one of the things I had a lady, because I usually ask, I'm like, okay, who here has worked in the field of beauty? And I usually try to give them like a free facial as like a demo. And I had one very nice lady. She waited for me to finish the program and she came up and she said, young man, I really liked your presentation. I have a question. I was too embarrassed to ask. I go, sure, ask it. And she said, I did hair back in the 1950s. Is your exam still the same? And I sat with her. We had a cup of coffee and I said, oh, well, we do the shave. She goes, is it still a horrible step shave? Uh-huh. She goes, do you have to do like that cut one strand of hair? Yep. She goes, do you have to do that horrible, like, what was it? A State Board set with the pin curls, the finger waves with the pin curl ends, the perms? Yeah, we do. That State Board has been unchanged since the 1950s. And I think it even goes farther back. Alana says, wow, mind is blown. I need to check my state law for online credit hours. You do. And this is the problem, right? Is that they don't even teach you in like grade school, like how to look at state laws, how to analyze them. I wish they would, because that would be more valuable, for living a better life. I feel half of this stuff I didn't even know until I was an adult. So I had to like teach myself. And I'm like, wow, like this is crazy. And like, another thing to truly, get better programs, finding your local representative and kind of working with them. It's an important part. It's a part that's uncomfortable, but you have to do it if you truly want to see change in this industry. Turkina asks a really good question. She says, what would be the best way to prepare for the State Board written test? So Turkina, this is where it's so important. If your school offers a tutoring session or a group session, take advantage of that. And the best thing is to do this. And I have my students do this. I tell them, I said, no pressure. If you can remember 5 questions on the exam, immediately come out and then just write them down on a piece of paper when you get out. That way you kind of have an idea. For the most part in New Jersey, and this is only New Jersey, I can't guarantee it's the same in like New York or Utah or California. A majority of our stuff is basic theory of hair. So you'll talk about like, the scalp. They asked a few questions on perms. A big one is that, can you relax hair that's been treated with a thio? The answer is heck no, it will cause breakage. You'll do a little bit of color theory. Sanitation was a big one. And you might get 1 or 2 on state laws. I did not have a lot of questions on makeup. There was not a lot of questions on skincare. And there was not a lot of questions on, anatomy, which was really interesting. It was just very basic. And every state is different. New Jersey has a very high threshold. A threshold that gives you a little wiggle room. You have to get at least an 80% to pass on the written test in New Jersey. Veronica says, people don't realize that beauty is science. I agree, Veronica. It is science, and people neglect it. It's just so ridiculous how and I think it's crazy. There's been times I'll either be like an event or I'll go to like one of my, I belong to like several awesome groups. Some of them are historical. Others are more of like charity events just to give back. And I'll go to like a charity event and I'll be like networking and I'll talk to someone and they'll go, oh, what profession are you in? And like, some people will say, oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm this. And I'm not embarrassed. I don't get embarrassed. I say with pride, I'm a hairdresser and I teach hair. Then you'll see this. You'll go, oh, interesting. No one gives you the same regard. Like if they say, oh, I'm a lawyer, they're like, wow, that's so cool. I'll be honest. I would rather be a hairdresser behind the chair any day of the week than have to wear a coat and tie every day as a lawyer, which would get beyond boring and stressful. I am doing clinical psychology because you're able to you have a little bit more leeway. It's kind of fun. I might be able to, add that positive change to the industry and kind of, breathe light into it. That was another thing too, is that, you had professionals. So when you become an educator, I don't know about any of y'all states, but New Jersey, you have to do an 80-hour program, 80-hour program through the state on teaching methods. Now, this is not credited. So like, let's say you do the class, you don't get any college credit for this, even though it's basically doing the same thing an education major would. And the people that teach it are usually psychologists or like a PhD in psychology, and they almost look down upon you. It's just you can feel being judged, which is so wrong. And they don't understand our culture. They don't understand the field, right? So like hairdressing, it's not that it's less formal, it's that it's a little bit different because you have a different way of doing the field versus psychology, which is like very strict in certain ways. Hairdressing, skincare science, teaching is a lot different. It's a different style of teaching. And the basic mechanics of learning are there. It's just different. It's more hands-on. It's more fun in that regard. You're not sitting and doing theory all day. You're actually touching something. You're doing, hair on a mannequin, hair on a person. So a lot of the things they don't always understand how it works or why it works. And that can, be very discouraging for students. And if I can at least get on a board in New Jersey and I have that experience both as a psychologist and both as being in the field, I think I'd be able to reach a lot more people and to really have a more engaging class instead of sitting there and just, not understanding the concepts of what we deal with. Turkina says, great, thank you. You are welcome. Turkina, another option too is I'm trying to be more active on here. I know it's been very difficult. Whether you or some friends in your class or anything, if y'all ever want to do like a general review, I'll be more than happy to do that for you. And, Alana, you can join, bring some friends from your school because it's theory is theory, right? It's my lady. It's just because you're in Utah or Texas or North Dakota, my lady's my lady. It's not going to differ, per state. So that's the nice thing about it. And the more repetition, the more exposure, the better I feel with learning. Turkina says we have to pass with a 70%. Ooh. That's a lot better, I feel, because it gives you that threshold. Like a C is still passing, right? And I'll be honest, right? I am not like, when I say I'm a PhD student, I'm not a straight A student, right? I get a B once in a while. That's something I had to train myself in because I used to be a perfectionist. If you're in this field, you can't be a perfectionist. You have to start forgiving yourself for certain things, right? So I'll I think it was I had gotten sick with that one pathogen that was going around for 2 years. I probably can't say the name for fear of being censored. I was sick and I was out for the count for about 2 weeks. It was not that bad. However, it was just more fatiguing. So what happened was I couldn't get my project done because I was working and doing grad school online. I had to take a B, and you know what? I'm fine with a B. I'm also horrible at math, right? I find that some of the best hairdressers that are very successful salon owners were horrible at math. Maybe in high school we were bad at math, or we might have had a learning disability. We overcame that. We hacked our brains. That's what makes us awesome, right? You have to combine all these little things into this one big field. It's not like, someone studying biochemistry where it's just biochemistry. Cosmetology is chemistry. It is electricity. It is psychology skills. You're doing so much, and it's just like, ooh. Turkina says, I did my BA in psychology, totally useless, and it cost 60 grand. Oh, I'm sorry about that. If I would do it all over again, I would go in a Cosmo right out of high school or during high school like they do now. Turkina, that is my same mistake that I made. I did not finish it in high school. I wish I had done that. I had to redo all the hours as an adult while I was doing school for psychology. And, I paid about the same. I will say this, psychology is totally useless as a BA. It is only useful in most states as a PhD. And I tell people, don't waste the money on just a master's. If you're going to go that psychology route, go and actually do the PhD because that master's comes with it and you're able to kind of feel more accomplished quicker. I did a master's in science and forensic psychology, and it was totally useless because forensic psychology, no one told me, is not a license. They don't have like a thing. And most career opportunities will not even look at you without a PhD or without a license in clinical psych or something. So that is where it was really, really interesting to see that. Even a PhD is iffy because you really need a license. It's a license that opens up more doors for you, just like a cosmetology license does. Did you have a specialty you wanted to do in psychology? Because for me, it was like kind of like I liked forensics, and then I did a program, and I don't know, it was interesting. Oh, Veronica, you actually are really cool by doing that. Veronica says, I'm still doing my RN stuff, wanting to go back into cosmetology field as a minor. Scared it would be overkill. Veronica, totally up to you because this is where it gets really cool. A lot of nurses, and this is what makes them so successful. I have a very good friend and coworker, fantastic. She's a very skilled RN. She did RN and she did aesthetic school. She combined them, and she is a medical nurse. She's able to do Botox because of that, and she's able to, treat the dermis where you can't in cosmetology. And it is stressful. I would say if you feel like you can handle it, do it. I would say that cosmetology can be overkill, especially if you're doing RN stuff and then you have to run back and switch between those two brains because you have the nurse brain and you have the cosmetologist brain. And there is some overlap with client safety, client comfort. I know as an RN, you're going to be a lot more successful having that with a cosmetology because you're able to do more and charge more. So like if I would do a facial, it would be like 150. But if my nurse friend would do the facial, she would do more of the medical components of it. It would be like 250. It would be more because she has that training behind her, and rightfully so. So definitely very interesting. You're also going to see too, as time goes on, there's going to be a graying of the lines. Where back in the day, back in 1980s, even 1990s, when my mom did cosmetology, it was a field that was not always looked at as the most professional. But as time went on, as the industry became more science-based, more professional, and the lines kind of got blurred, there is going to be that gray area like advanced aesthetics. Can you do some stuff under the guise of a physician? That's where it becomes I guess to some people, controversial issue. Training is important, right? There's hairdressers that are fantastic out there, and then there are those that don't always have the good enough skill, and they end up getting behind that chair, and it can be difficult. Turkina says, same, wanted to do forensic psychology. When I told my teacher, she was like, what the heck is that? So after 1 year of master's, I quit. We must be, I agree. We probably were friends in a past life or something. That's awesome. Did you do your so, and again, if it's too personal, you have to answer. I did my program at Walden. I liked Walden because they were one of few that offered forensic psychology, and I was able to kind of like stick it through. I liked it, and I liked the experience of challenging myself because I did not always have confidence, right? When I was in cosmetology school, I did it to build confidence. And we're always learning. You got to turn everything to a learning experience. And that's how you kind of have a better outlook on life. And I wish that I had thought that way, years ago. Forensics, it was interesting because you would study like violent behavior. You would study the criminal mind. You would study personality. And a lot of those skills, shockingly, I was able to kind of apply to cosmetology. Being a better teacher, I did the postmasters in teaching psychology online. So what I would do is I knew how to network. So I would like try to kind of, lead with my classmates that were doing education program. And a lot of them, I'd, try to encourage them like, come on, y'all got this, go out there and, do good. And yeah, I will say the only good thing about forensics is depending on the program that your school is, you might be able to transfer some of that to a PhD program. And if they allow that, definitely do that. And you don't have to do it like at a snail's pace because, I know like this field, I was in it for a while and then I ended up, gently, leaving it. She says, I did University of Phoenix, but that's all they had was mental health. That's why I quit because I realized it wasn't my thing. I agree because I know like that program is a lot different than what clinical psychology is. Walden has a very good clinical psychology program that I truly do enjoy because you're able to, have good professors and the professors will like amend certain things. So like I had a final and I thought it was gonna be like this giant book and I'm like, oh goodness, like what did I get myself into? My professor goes, whoever wrote this needs to be punished because that's not how it should be. I want you all to understand what the real world is like. So she would say, pick a fictitious character. Keyword is fictitious. It cannot be anyone that is a real person. So I did like a British soap opera and I just did the basic diagnosis. The key there, and she would encourage us because it's kind of like your in-person exam that we have to do here in New Jersey. You would do a client that is very easy to diagnose. Keep it simple. Keep it a simple diagnosis. Don't try to do a fancy one because the more fancy you try to do and the more rare it is, the more you might trip yourself up. Pick something that has only a few criteria in the DSM and you can give a quick diagnosis for. That's what we did. And then she gave feedback and she'd say, okay, use this example when you take your exam, stuff like that, which I really appreciated. And the other thing too is like, cosmetology, if you get enough classmates, make those connections. I still keep in touch with some of my old classmates and my cosmetology teacher, who is an incredible lady, truly someone that I look up to. She actually was right off the boat from Tennessee. She had like the accent and everything. She had good old Southern hospitality, which we have in our family as well. So I totally related to her, and very nice, very understanding. Was non-judgmental, and she inspired me to become a teacher because I like how she taught. Our class, we didn't have like, high-tech stuff, but we made do what we had, and we had a great time. We had good education. We would go different places. And she stood up for the students. That's what inspired me, because I know a lot of professors, and I'm not knocking anyone's professors. I'm going to see if I can word this. There are professors that have taught cosmetology, and they might either be stuck in the way they were teaching it from the 1990s. They don't like technology. They might get a little cranky. They might get stuck in their ways. And then you have those that have no experience in the field, and they just do it because the program offered scholarship, and they burn out very quickly, and they might, not be understanding of students' needs or get too involved. And I tell people all the time, as a cosmetology teacher, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. My students will tell you they do not know anything about me personally. They don't know anything about my personal views. I keep that all out of the classroom, as it should be. I tell them my running joke is that I don't answer personal questions. They don't know, anything about my family. They don't know anything about my personal relationships. All that is completely off limits. It's about them, and it's about their education. And that's how you have to make it. It makes it about their learning. They might know like little things like, oh yeah, I like, I don't know. I like studying psychology. I like nature. I like hiking. If I do an icebreaker, I'll say like, you take a roll of toilet paper and you take as many pieces as you want. Usually people do like 3 or 4. And then after they pass the toilet paper around, I'll go, okay, I'll tell you 5 things about myself that are interesting. Turkina asks, how long have you been in cosmetology? I have started this journey back in 2010, and I officially graduated in 2016. I worked heavy duty in the salons, and then at around so after 2016 is when I finished. Actually took my exam in 2017, so I got my full-on license early 2017. From 2017 to about 2020, I was working in salons full time. I was teaching on the side a little bit, working in education. And then finally, the last few years, I started working in public school, teaching cosmetology. Then I went private school because of the shutdown and all that stuff. The private schools were more open when the public school was not open. And that's what made it a lot interesting to get experience quickly. Veronica, that's a really good question. Veronica asks, do I believe it is better to go to schooling in big cities like Chicago or California? I always pronounce it Missouri, but I know some people might not know Missouri, so it's Missouri. And we have only like 3 major cosmetology schools, honestly. Such a small state I live in. Yeah, it's because Missouri is mostly rural, right? It's like St. Louis has one, and there's a few others. That's a good question. So not necessarily, no. I don't think you have to, be in a big city like New York City or Chicago for different reasons, right? It's expensive. To live in the city is not for everyone. It's not going to be for, I myself tend to like more urban, not urban, more suburban and more rural. I don't mind that. I kind of like it. It's a slower pace of life. People are kinder. You have more of that sense of community and that connection. Versus big cities where, you have to be rushing down different streets. I could never live in New York City myself, just not my thing. It's very difficult to maneuver. You have like traffic, you have to catch a cab and all that stuff. And that's money right there. Not necessarily. The other issue too, and I've noticed this because being in the small town myself, our cosmetology school, we only had like 5 students. We used to have more. And the problem also had to do with the fact that the school itself was not teaching it, because what we're finding is that not a lot of the schools will properly market and properly talk about their cosmetology programs, which is just such a disservice to a lot of the students, right? So that's my own 2 cents on that. Veronica says, yeah, it's like one city and everything else is rural. It is, yeah. Particularly just like that St. Louis area. And then the more north you are, which I think like under, if I remember the map correctly, praying I get my geography right, is you're under Iowa, I think. Let me see. For once, I actually got my geography right. Yes, you are under Iowa. Which Iowa, that's another state that is like completely barren, and there is like nothing there. Same with like Nebraska and all that. But surprisingly, I've noticed that some of the hairdressers I've networked with from Nebraska, they know their stuff because You got to remember, theory is theory, and there's not going to be, anything that's going to be different in Nebraska versus, I don't know, what do you have? Any of that, but they do better education. Other things like cosmetology, other states will require continuing education, which I personally believe in. I think that's a lot better of an option instead of having to do state board. Have continuing education that you must show, credits every 2 or 5 years, depends on what it is, and offer the option. Make it online courses, the basic sciences, refreshers, things like that. Cosign education is one of the biggest resources. I tell people I only pay like $50 a month and you get like the education library, and it covers everything from the basic color application. Now, here is one thing, and I don't want to confuse anyone in case it gets stressful at schools, because you're going to have like some cognitive dissonance here. Here's how I do hair and what makes it different. When I do hair, and if I'm doing hair and the client wants bleach, non-negotiable, we are doing a 10-minute Get Pure treatment. You don't have to use Get Pure. I'm not endorsing their products. It's just that it's quicker. It's a 10-minute. You paint it on dirty, dry hair under the dryer with a cap on, and it's a demineralizer for the hair. However, right, not every hair type, can get certain services. So I've had hair that was, badly distressed, and I told the client, I'm going to do a Get Pure treatment on you, but I'm not going to do a chemical service because your hair can't take it. They were in a pool. I always apply bleach and I always apply hair color on clean, freshly shampooed, towel dried, damp hair. I don't ever apply bleach and color on dirty, dry hair, ever. I've had clients that will they'll say, oh, don't wash your hair for 1 or 2 days, and they'll come in there and they'll have like product buildup. The reason being is this: we are taught in other fields in cosmetology, skin, nails, you clean your canvas to do the work. How come hair isn't held to the same regard? Someone comes in with a face full of makeup, goes to a makeup artist. Do you think that makeup artist is going to say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to take the makeup off your face. I'm just going to, make up over it. No, because that would look really gross, right? The client would have like a layer of like makeup on. It would feel disgusting. It wouldn't look right. You have all that junk that's on the face. And then you have the clients that, they go get nails done, right? If you go to a nail salon, right, and you have like nail polish on, is your nail artist just going to say, okay, you have nails on, I'm just going to paint over that? No, they're going to clean the nails. They're going to put the acetone and cleanse it. We got to start doing that with hair. And that's not being taught in hair, and that's not being taught in the books. Now, I will give Pivot Point some credit because Pivot Point actually goes into explaining a little bit more of the science, a little bit more than My Lady does. And they also explain the importance of when you're selecting developer. This is another issue. Every single time you're in cosmetology school, you can just tell by my facial expression, every single time they will do 6N, 20 volume for gray hair. What about 10 volume? No one uses 10 volume. No one uses 30 volume. They become like the shy, controversial developers. 10 volume is fantastic for great coverage. People don't even use it. They're not doing this research. Turkina says, financially, what is better, behind the chair or teaching? That's a really good question, Turkina. And I would say that teaching is good for the sense that with teaching, when you're able to get a contract, you can get benefits like health benefits. You can get like your pension, stuff like that, depending where you teach. In the long run, teaching is a lot better. Now, behind the chair is also good because you can do that on the side, right? You can become a business owner. So it really depends on your age. Like you're young, right? You're young. You might want to be behind the chair for a little bit. If you decide that you want to start teaching, go ahead and go for it. I encourage that, especially from you coming from a psychology background, psychology major. You already know a lot of the stuff that's going to be taught, and you're going to be ahead of the game. It's not going to be nearly as hard as cosmetology, which is more of a newer field. I found more comfortable in the educator field. I just want to say this right now. I'm going to also try to do chapter summaries of the educator book after I finish My Lady's book summaries. The educator manual for My Lady will make you want to have a coffee, keyword is coffee drinking game, because every time they say master educator, you just want to take a sip of coffee. It's that irritating. It gets very redundant. Veronica says, I'm thinking of going to Japan and Korea for school and microblading esthetician program. Veronica, do that. That's incredible. Japan and Korea offer some of the neatest, and I want to say the neatest sciences. Korea has an incredible progressive market on skincare science, way ahead of the game than we are here. Japan. They do the special perms in Europe and Asia. I don't know if any of y'all have seen the special perms. I have a picture in the book. Here's what it looks like. This right here is a digital perm. They put this special solution and they plug it into this like machine that heats it up, which is kind of scary, but kind of cool. It kind of looks like the old school perm machines, which I'll see if I have a photo of. I think they had it somewhere. Does the book have it? Yep. Look at the resemblance of that old scary looking machine that's like a chandelier, the Nestler perm machine. I had a client who was in her 80s and she used to get perms with the machine, and she said that they would actually use horse urine. That was one of the active ingredients in it. Pretty scary. Turkina says, thank you for answering. Of course. You know, I really wish more educators would do this and take the time to like, you know, engage the students, and, you know, it's just important, and like, or future educators, right? And it's a journey. Turkina says, also thanks for the tip on white hair and 10 volume. They always suggest 20 volume. Turkina, that is a really good point. And this is something that is so crazy. How many times have you heard, and I'll raise my hand because this is me all throughout cosmetology school. How many times have you heard 20 volume is the only thing to cover gray hair? How many times have you heard 10 volume is not permanent hair color? That makes it demi-permanent. Demi-permanent color. And again, I get very passionate about this. I'm not a fan of it, and I'll explain why. Hair kind of works in the rules of third. So for example, with demi-permanent color, a third of people, it's going to lift the hair to an extent, usually finer hair. A third of people, it's going to work exactly like a demi-permanent color and it will wash out completely. And a third of people, it is going to stick on the hair and never come out. So that is where demi-permanent color becomes stressful. People paint demi-permanent color as this like magical product that like, you know, washes out completely and doesn't get in the way of chemicals. Baloney. There has been hair, especially if they're overlapping, people that do like Shades EQ, and I'm not picking on Shades EQ, but it's the most common one. Shades EQ, Coliston from Wella. They'll have layer upon layer and buildup, and they'll be overlapping with demi-permanent color. You go to bleach that hair, and if the client has like this much regrowth, you're going to get an ugly line of like chicken fat yellow, and the rest of it is going to be brassy as hell because basically that product is not fully removed from the hair. So I'll explain it like this. Peroxide is, Veronica's right. She said 10 volume is underrated. It is. It becomes like the forbidden product and the unused product, which is sad. 10 volume is when you only want deposit. Can you get lift from 10 volume? Heck yeah. There's been people that I have come in my salon and 10 volume doesn't work. It might even create a degree of lift. There's been people that 10 volume is perfect. Most of the time for gray hair, if you want to cover gray, think of white hair as like a piece of paper, right? Not all gray hair is resistant. And that's where people forget is texture comes into play with that. You have this nice white piece of paper and you go and you throw, you know, color on it. It's going to suck it right up. Now, if I have, let me see if I can find something to better model this. If I have dark hair and I have white hair and I use 20 volume, here's what's going to happen. That 20 volume might not fully cover the gray. It also might lift the dark hair. So what's going to happen is that client might have a nice multi-tonal look. Then she'll leave the salon, give it a few washes, and she's brassy as heck. Over the counter, and this is from a cosign class, the Hair Freaks and Color Geeks, highly recommend the class. You'll make money behind the chair quicker. They explain in the course that 20 volume, right? It lifts hair. 6N is the commonly used shade and the commonly used sold shade over the counter, right? For professionals. At CVS, you know, box hair dye, 6A Ash is the #1 seller. Why? Because guess what? Behind over the counter, they're using 20 or 25 volume. That's going to cause the hair to pull warm. So what they're doing is adding ash, and it will say fade resistant brass free brown or gray coverage. Gray coverage and brass free are the #1 complaints of why your clients don't come back to behind the chair. And I truly wish the textbooks would get up to par on that. Veronica says, that is why I want to go to Japan, preferably for microblading, in my opinion. I think microblading in the US is not finesse technique. I agree, Veronica. We have a lot to catch up on in how we're doing things. Our beauty professionals, our this or that. Truly, we need to get on board with a lot of that stuff. Same with the facial lasers and the facial tightening stuff. I had a lady, she was doing aesthetics, and she would do the, which I actually just had my friend, wonderful friend, shout out to you, Corinne, you're awesome. She's a fantastic esthetician. She did my face, and she did the electrical impulse treatment, which kind of like tightens and firms everything. They had a woman, ready for this, that during the training, they tested the product on half her face. So half her face was like lifted and the other half was sagging, and they didn't do it on the other half, and they were going to leave. And they're like, no, can you just finish up the rest of her face? Because that's what the electrical current does. It tightens. Turkina, another important thing you're going to realize is that they don't always encourage in cosmetology school cleaning the hair and putting color on freshly cleaned hair, because here's the issue. If you have a spill, let's say that, Turkina spills orange juice, and then you have Veronica, she's going to say, oh, I'll clean that up. Veronica is going to use a slightly damp sponge or slightly damp paper towels to suck up the spill. Think of it like this. A sponge does not suck up a spill that is, what is it? That is, a sponge does not suck up a spill if it's bone dry. A sponge has to be slightly damp. Hair works like that. Think of diffusion. Another issue when I see people applying color, and I wish I had a mannequin head, is that they'll do this, right? When they have the color, right? Not only do they put it on dirty, dry hair, which is strike number one, they'll take a section of the hair, right? And they'll go and they'll just slap that color on with the brush like this. I call it brush to potement. Slap it on. That does nothing. That gets product everywhere. That makes a mess. That causes their scalp to irritate. What you have to do with the product is you properly apply it on, and you apply it gently like you're putting peanut butter on a sandwich. Put it where you want to go. Don't move it. If you're doing a virgin application, people take the hair and they go like this, and they just slap it on there, and they rub the hair, and they pull the hair with their fingers. Don't do that, because you doing that is further shoving that cuticle down. Doesn't work. Gently spread that product on thick. Let the product do its job. You leave the client undisturbed. If you're using a dryer, that dryer will work. It cuts that processing time in half. If you're using a hair color steamer, you're going to use no cap. You're going to put the client under the steamer, and you're going to process the client in check. Typically, a hair steamer is going to cut that half in half again. So in layman's terms, keep it simple. If you would process color for 40 minutes, right? You put them under a dryer with a cap. That would mean that you have your client go under the dryer for 20 minutes, and then you take the cap off, let her cool for 5 minutes. If you're using a steamer, what would take you 20 minutes with a dryer gets cut in half again, meaning it's 10 minutes. You can't over-process the hair with a steamer, right? Because I know some people get, scared with the math. Make a little chart for yourself. A steamer is a good way to get clients in and out that quick, but also get clients covered well. Another issue, if you have super resistant gray hair, this is what I do. My own little special formula, because they exist. I do 10 volume max. I do the selected formula, and I put the client under the steamer. I apply the color on clean, slightly damp hair. And then what I do is she is under the steamer, and then we do the steamer for the full 45 minutes. Processing time is a huge issue that we don't nearly do as much information as we need to. Veronica says not Fraxel. I don't think it was Fraxel. I think it was, I have to find the name of it. It was a weird name. It was like an electrical one. Cryo. A cryo is going to be the new thing I'm going to get done. It's like using cold technology to tighten and firm. I mean, the chemistry behind this is just fantastic. Skincare is where we're really seeing those things be promoted. Another important thing, right? I tell people all the time. Why is it that we put the biggest amount on the proper ways of neutralizing a perm or hair color, a relaxer, but we don't put that into our shampoos, right? We're taught in cosmetology school, pH is everything, right? And we're taught that if you constantly put chemicals that are alkaline on your hair, it's going to fry your hair. It's going to take your perms out quicker. It's going to damage your hair. It's going to fade your hair color. There are professional brands out there that are no better than what's over the counter because of the ingredients and also because of the shampoo just being very caustic. Some of the best brands that I've worked with that were professional, I would do a pH test. I'd be shocked. It'd be like a pH of 9. There was a Color Shave shampoo. It was a pH of 9.5. That is the same pH as a cold wave perm, just to put that in perspective. What I'm trying to push in this industry is I would like everything to be required to label the pH on the bottle. That way the product cannot lie. I also think as professionals, being able to talk in terms of pH is more important. I wish every single perm that they would have a pH level on it so I can read it and say, okay, pH is on the box, because it makes it a lot easier to understand what you're using. You know, maybe for hair that's been color treated, I don't want to use a perm that has a pH of like, 9.5. It's going to be too caustic. And another important thing too is like, right, hair color. They'll say low ammonia or ammonia free. Ammonia free is horrible for your hair. That's finally, the verdict is finally out on that. That MEA chemical is horrible for your hair. I use an MEA-free color. It's powered by AMP, which is a better chemical. I use that for deposit-only hair color, strictly deposit, and it works fantastic. You get, clear results. Chromastix, that's a really good brand to work with. So is Two-Toe. Those are the two that I primarily use myself. Soma shampoo, all the pH is on the bottle. That is how you get clients to return, and that's how you get clients to truly have good retail. Retailing skills, when I was behind the chair, they were horrible. I would try to sell them on like what the product said. Oh, this make it up. This magical shampoo is powered by coffee. It will invigorate your scalp, which is a load of darn baloney, especially because the product was too caustic. I was not hearing the client out. The client would say, I don't like the shampoo. My scalp feels dry. I would say, oh, well, it's better than over the counter. And that was the issue. And did y'all know that behind over the counter, some of the best shampoo over the counter is actually VO5, because it was the only brand that consistently tested that it was acidic in pH, about a 5.5. That's pretty darn scary, right? That we're dealing with that. And that's just pH is just something that I wish we'd focus more on and all that. Certain pH products, like oil. Oil doesn't have a pH. Typically, it's more, I guess. I don't even know how to determine that, but it's like it's not alkaline. Silicone, that's another thing. Silicone is both a benefit and a curse, because if you were not clarifying the silicone out of the hair, that's blocking the cuticle for color. It is like almost midnight here, so I know I'm keeping a lot of y'all up. My next video, which I'm hoping to fully upload later tonight, is going to be on the oval perm part 2, and I fully take accountability for the first one being not the best it could be, but at least you have the technique. But you know what? I'm turning it into a learning experience. This is how you don't do it. This is how you might get a fail. And it's a great example of what an over processed perm would look like. So I am going to be doing a better video on the oval perm, which is making 2 rods work as one. And another thing, I'm sure a lot of y'all will notice this. It is darn hard to get some of the basic stuff like perm rods, perm picks, due to like shortages in material. I had to look at 7 different stores. Not even kidding. I was driving like a lunatic. Walk in there. Hey, do you have perm picks? I was calling up every single Sally Beauty supplier in the state of New Jersey and New York. Not a single one had perm picks. I was ready to buy them off of a salon until I said, you know what? I have no choice but to support Amazon. I'll get on Amazon. So just little things like that are absolutely driving me crazy. Veronica says, thank you for being interactive. It makes me feel so happy and not give up why I was interested in beauty and hair. Veronica, never give up, please. This is like, as an educator, I know you're not one of like my students, but I tell them never, ever give up. If you're curious, go out and do it. What have you got to lose, right? It's better to have so much experience in life in different areas and not have enough. You can never have enough experience. You'll meet friends along the way. You'll meet those connections. There was the one thing I forgot to fully finish this, but out in California, every year in Los Angeles, they would do the ABCH, American Board of Certified Hair Colorists. And the ABCH, they were one of the best resources in doing hair, because they would do the science. They would tell you why the product works, why it doesn't work. They would focus on the science and the technique. And I liked it because I would come from New Jersey and I would meet hairdressers that were from California, Arizona, Texas, Louisiana, all around the world. You would learn about their state laws. You would learn about what they do differently. It was one event all dedicated to hair color and hair chemicals. And they would also cover the marriage of cut and color. I can't tell you how many times I missed the good old days because 2020 unfortunately happened and it shut down. They said we can't do the summit anymore. Well, what happened was things were done differently, and there were people that were supposed to be in the board that were dead for 10 years. You would call the person, they wouldn't answer their phone, and they would say, Where is this so and so? She was dead for 10 years and she was on the board. That was part of the problem. The other part of the problem is the organization did not have a bank account. It would just do things on the whim, which was not good at all. So they had this beautiful 20-year anniversary planned, never happened, and it was supposed to be fantastic. It went defunct overnight. And that is something I miss like you would not imagine. I miss it so much. Veronica says, I did everything beauty wise by myself, and I love the growth of learning experience. I wanted to get in the field mostly to help people feel beautiful like a fairy godmother. Veronica, I got to find a way to pin that comment because that is absolutely incredible. That is exactly why we are in this field. You are doing it for the right reasons. So please continue with it. We do this field because maybe some of us have gone through some stuff, right? We do this field because we like to help people. A lot of people in the helping professions, nursing, social work, psychology, sociology, we want to better someone's life, right? And Veronica, kudos to you because I just want to say a huge thank you to you because that is darn awesome. And I wish that that was the single reason why everyone does this field because it's so rewarding that you have that one client come in there. They might not feel good, right? And then you get to make them have a better haircut, a better hair service. Maybe you give them a better styling opportunity, right? Texture. And it's things like that's why we're in this. We do it because we care. At the same time, it's also tough because I myself, I struggled with like, I would get so emotionally involved. If a client just had a really bad day and they didn't like something, I would take it to heart like it was like a chest wound. And that's something that we have to learn how to like put up those walls. And in a healthy way. Almost forgot. I just want to show a quick product to you all that this product might really be up your alley if any of you have tried styling hair. I know of Veronica in Missouri, or I always call it Missouri. Depends on how you say it. Usually, if you say Missouri, it's kind of the older term for the state. There is in Missouri a convention that you might be interested in. They do the Hair Freaks and Color Geeks class. It's the Midwest show, and it's all just generic education. I would ask to attend that. Just tell them that Vinny. Lisa Kelly is a great educator. She does it. This right here is an example, and I know the camera is kind of hard to see, but it is Soma shampoo, and I'm gonna see if we can shine the light on this, make it a little bit better. See how it says right here, pH 4.5 to 5.5? Every single product that you use on a client should have the pH in the bottle, and you educate the client. This is what will make you more successful, and it makes your colors last better. It makes your perms last better. Your haircuts be all that much greater. This is moisture shampoo. Maybe a client wants body. Oh, perfect, Turkina. Sorry about that. Hot body, 4.5 to 5.5. Big letters. One of my favorite products that I have in my hair right now is Curly Q. It is a curl enhancer, and it is a non-resin-based alcohol-free gel. It's kind of like if any of y'all have used Dermalogica, it's similar to their Ultra Calm water gel where it's just nice like gel-like texture and it absorbs in. This is a moisturizer for your hair, and it maintains the integrity of your curls. A lot of our clients that come in there that, they either get a texture service or they might have wavy hair. A lot of people have wavy hair and curly hair. This is how you would properly retail to your client. And I always believe in using, not so many products in the client's hair. You only use it, you have to. Some people use like 6 or 7 products and the hair feels weighed down. And have that conversation with your client. The biggest thing too that you'll see behind the chair is I am not a big fan of using hairspray, especially if the client has color treated hair. Because what does alcohol do? It fades color. What do we do when we get color on our, obviously as a hairdresser, you tend to wear black because anything that is lighter in color, white, red, any of that, it stains very easy. So I'm doing a client, right? I'm applying her hair color. Oop, I got some of her vibrant red hair color on my shirt. What do I do? I take hairspray. Alcohol eats away at the color, gets it out of my shirt. What do I do to my client after she freshly has colored hair? Bad idea. This is a Soma shampoo, and I'll type that in the box. Soma Curly Q and Soma Hot Body. Veronica says, thank you, Vincent, for the product reveal. Love it. I got to go to work. Glad I had the chance to interact with you in my schedule. Thank you. Good night. Veronica, thank you so much for coming on and engaging. I really appreciate it. You asked some very good questions, and your statement was just awesome because that is exactly why we're in this field. Have a great day at work. Hopefully it's easy and pretty mellow because I know we're kind of getting that weekend. In May, you have a very fantastic week. Thank you for coming on here and engaging. I truly appreciate it. So another thing too, and I find that not a lot of programs talk about styling products. For the most part, you only have a limited thing of products, right? It's a gel. There's only so many different ways to make a gel. I tend to look for the ingredients from out a beauty supplier that they have they have products that have the science to back it up. They talk about pH. This one, the Soma, it's more geared towards clients that are natural. So for example, if you have a client that is like vegan or a client that is, more holistic, you look at the Soma and you see it on a shelf. This thing practically has barks, twigs, leaves, and berries going out of it. That is also the important thing if you have your own salon, is you do one line. Like Soma is pretty affordable, right? You could do one line that is very basics, the basics ingredients. Soma is great for esthetician clients because estheticians tend to be more science-based. They tend to be more about like, how does this work? Why does it work? Your client education. And as professionals, just simply educating your client about the pH. Why does the pH work the way it does? It's acidic. And you would say, Miss Jones, I'm using, and that's one thing too you'll learn about with the older, no, I don't say older, mature clients. Try to avoid saying old, not to offend them. The mature clients is that usually if you say, oh, Miss Jamie or, Miss Pauline, it's a good way of engaging them, of like showing that little bit of respect that you might have them to say, oh, wow, like they really know their stuff. You'll explain to them the reason why I recommend the product or I'm using this product on your hair is it shows the pH in the bottle. And you can explain a lot of brands don't have the pH in the bottle and the ingredients could be color stripping or it could be too high in pH. So that is that. So Soma is definitely the products that I do recommend for clients. With that being said, I'm going to cut this video out. So if anyone has last minute questions, ask them. I'm going to try to do a mix of morning and night videos if I have time. So truly was great to have all of y'all here. Turkina, Veronica, and sorry if I forget names. Ilana, truly great to have everyone here asking all these great questions. Turkina says, thank you. Turkina, you are always welcome. Bring friends. Come on in here. Bring friends, family, anyone who has questions. It would be great to kind of, do some troubleshooting, right? I find that you learn more with real world examples and with, what do you call it? Real world examples and with case study examples than you do with just like reading the book, right? Thank you, Turkina. I appreciate it. I still have this great little group of like people that supported me from day one. And it's just so important and humbling, just like, keep those relationships still good. So important. I love Utah too. Everyone is kind in Utah. It's like nice. It's a truly a great state. And like, people tend to have a better sense of community. California is a hit or miss. Me personally, I've been to Los Angeles and that was like craziness. Los Angeles is a lot more difficult to run a salon than it is, I guess, in a different area. What you're going to see though in Utah is a lot of people tend to have hard water because of the minerals and all that. And if you have hair that is filled with minerals, warning, don't ever put bleach over hair that has been in hard water because it will react violently. Another important thing, so if you have a client like hair, like I have the dreaded Italian and Puerto Rican hair, my hair is a mess to work with. So I tell people moisture, moisture, moisture. People try to sell people on using an oil-based shampoo. There is no such thing. Moisture shampoo and then a clarifying shampoo that is acidic is what you need in between just to maintain the integrity of your hair. My hair is wiry. It is very frizzy. It is curly to all high heavens. Some days I have days where my hair is like poof. And I was using hair products that were too high in pH and my hair was swelling. It was like wiry. It was more frizzy than it had needed to be. Just by using products with the right pH, you might realize that you'll actually have clients that their hair is a little bit more forgiving. The hair might relax a little bit just because you're nourishing it and you're not swelling that cuticle up. And you might get a better curl pattern. What I do for myself is I do a mix of hot body on the mid shaft and ends just for volume. And I do curly Q all over just to kind of support the integrity of the curl, to moisturize the hair and to not strip the hair. You will find, oop, that fell on the keyboard. Hope y'all can still hear me. You will find that when you're using curly Q, it gives you a better feeling. The hair is more freeing. It's not as weighed down and you're able to get modern style. So you can wrap the hair with curly Q. You can diffuse it. You can air dry it. A lot of the looks that we're seeing, especially because of the shutdown for the 2 years of people not being able to get to the salon, not being able to afford those treatments, people are tending to go for now quick, easy, ready to wear styles that you don't have to use a lot of heat with. I know that's I did during the shutdown at least. So truly, thank you for showing up, everyone. I'm going to end this video. This video will be published, so it will be available to rewatch, right? I'm the kind of person that I want to rewatch something 5 times just to get the most amount of information I can. You learn through repetition. I know, Turkina, you know that from studying psychology, right? Repetition, repetition. Education psychology, we covered that. It's important to have this learning bank. Not a lot of programs do this. There was another, I'm not going to name drop here, but there was someone that I looked up to until I learned a lot about how they were not very professional and they were more divisive in the field. And they were teaching stuff about like, hair color and, working on different types of, textures from straight to curly to color treated. And they would make it so hard to get access to their program. I was doing this, quickly writing notes, just to get everything in. And they would end the live video and you couldn't rewatch the video. What I'm doing here is this is my my ability to be giving back to the community, giving back to everyone else on here. Is all of my videos are going to be on here. I have the channel membership, but there is no exclusive videos because I don't believe in that. Any proceeds I get, whether it's a super tip or something, it goes to funding buying more mannequins, buying product, or doing stuff for a demo so I can put it back in my YouTube because I truly believe in giving back like that. It's how it always should be. Truly about the science, about the education, and you have the art. It's up to you as the artist. How are we going to use a tool, right? You can give me the best wrench for a car and I'll probably mess that car up. You can give me the best paintbrush. In cosmetology, it's really the quality of the tools, but it's what you bring to the table, knowing the science. How are we going to get creative? Oh, so Turkina, there is there's show the support for Vincent Balducci. All the videos have that. You can give a tip that way. There's the membership, but the membership, as of now, I'm not making it exclusive. The super tips I think are more important because you just kind of give a tip or what you could give now or anything. All those, the money is going to go right to purchasing more products. Now I'm going to look at getting a few of the better quality mannequins. I'm going to be trying to do the piggyback perm, which ironically, I did a poll. I have the worst luck with this. I'll ask a poll question for a video and it's always 50-50. And I end up doing them both. It's just like, which one do y'all want to see now? So that is going to be on the agenda, is the piggyback wrap. And then eventually I'm going to be doing some stuff like how to do the Jerry curl or the soft curl permanent, because that is a lost art. I can't tell you how many times people forget that the Jerry curl is not an optional. It's a service in your toolkit. It's how you can be creative with a client that maybe wants a mullet, right? Your client has very curly hair. She's got like type 4C hair and she wants a loose wavy mullet. How are you going to give that client that hair? A Jerry curl. You are not going to take a client that is so curly and then put a relaxer on it. I myself, I do not believe in sodium hydroxide relaxer. I think the chemical is way outdated, especially with how most of the hair is color treated, bleach treated. You want more of a looser wave. And with a sodium hydroxide relaxer, no hair that is relaxed with sodium hydroxide looks beautiful and shiny. It just doesn't. It looks very chemically distressed. You have to like make it shine like with silicone and all that stuff. Oh, no pressure, Chiquina. If you support that, I would so appreciate it. Thank you. And I tell people like 80% of my viewers are not subscribed. So I tell them all the time, subscribe because you're going to get notifications of when a live video is coming and when this is coming. You know, it's important. I wish more educators would be like this and take the time to do this. Let me just put these products back. Thank you, Turkina, for all the support. Thank you, Alana. Thank you, Veronica. We might get a little community going here and just chat about stuff. And, you know, as y'all are growing in the field, I love to see that journey. You guys going from, you know, someone who's in the middle of beauty school to at the end of cosmetology school, graduating and then celebrating that with you. And, you know, wherever the field takes you, if you stay in hair, if you maybe go somewhere else, but retain some of the values from hair, it's a journey and it's fun. And I'm proud to be part of that with y'all. As y'all are watching my journey as me going from just a regular cosmetology student when I started this to an educator. And it's always important to be humble and kind. I can't tell you how many professionals I've seen that they'll get noticed and they end up getting like the fame gets to their head. I'm not going to name drop again, but I've known that one person that was very well known in cosmetology and would do videos, and they would show up to events and that they would act like that there. And people were like, and then I had one hairdresser friend. She explained it in the wrong manner, but I understand where she was getting at. She told the person, she goes, "You are the bane of my existence." She didn't mean that in a mean way. She meant that in a joking way, in the sense that people would watch this famous hairdresser's videos and then we get a false idea of what hair was like. So they would try to make their hair, which, by the way, here's another important thing. And I know I keep trying to end this, but I find another point to go on. Not all hair can be safely lifted to a level 10 blonde. I have fully accepted I will never be blonde. I will never have highlights that look nice that are blonde. It's just not in the cards for me. You'll find that your client's ethnic background, to an extent, affects how their hair impacts their chemical service. So, for example, I've worked on a lot of hair types that were from Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Cuba. They would live in that little belt of islands. Here's the thing. You'll find that the closer you live to the equator, the more stubborn the melanin in the hair is, and the more hard it is to safely and effectively lift a client who is naturally like a 3N or a 2N up to a level 10 beautiful blonde. It's not going to happen. I had a client, she came in there and she was like right off the boat from Jamaica, and she told me, she goes, "My hair does not lift a bleach." I thought she was kidding me. She goes, "My hair doesn't lift. I've tried everything." I personally don't believe never going over 20 volume. We tried 20 volume in a foil. We didn't even see a single change. I then said, okay, 40 volume. 40 volume, nothing. The hair just felt a little bit more frazzled. And I told her, "Ma'am, I'm really sorry. I don't know why this is." And we had to settle for something that was more of a compromise, like a red or a violet, or, you know, maybe a high lift brown. You can get a little lighter. My hair is the same way. You put 20 volume bleach in my hair, you are not going to get above a level 8 brassy orange. And by the time it hits that brassy orange, my hair is fried to a crisp. So stuff like that. And that's a whole video for another day on the art of lowering expectations and the art of consultation, which has otherwise been lost. I can't tell you how many times they have clients wear wigs for a photo shoot, and they'll show a client who has, like, you know, beautiful wavy hair, and then it's like bleach blonde. I'm like, no, that's a wig, or it's edited. L'Oreal does that with a lot of their box ties. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to end this video here. Y'all have a fantastic night, and I hope to hear from y'all soon. I hope to be live again soon. Next week is a bit of a business trip for me, so I'm going to be a little hung up with not being able to going live. Maybe the week after I'll be back at it. So y'all have a fantastic night.